Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be here with, this is honestly a real treat. Ricky Carruth, agent of the stars, elite agent, leaders of legions of agents. So I couldn't be more excited to have you, Ricky. Super thrilled you made the time for us today. What I really wanted to cover with you today is, so Lumberjack Landlord is my brand. That's what I spend, my time doing. I'm a real estate investor. I've got about 40 buildings, about 115 units. But one of the things that guys like us like to do is give back. We like to give back. We remember what it was like struggling, eating ramen noodles, the treat being the McDonald's dollar menu. We understand and remember what those days were. And so what I wanted to do was, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to do this for me and for all the investors that subscribe to my channel and the other channels I'm affiliated with. But I wanted to kind of walk through, because one of the most often asked questions that I get is, all right, how do I find the right broker? And I think so often people are quick to judge and say, it was the broker's fault, the agent's fault, the agent's fault, the agent's fault. Now, in many cases it is, but in many cases it's also the new investor and not understanding how to best qualify that agent to kind of get us on that path. So again, if you could kind of take folks through, what you're teaching agents, you being an elite agent yourself, how do you think the best way to, what are those criteria that people should be looking for to select that agent to that investor, where we know that first one might be a lot of work, right? And then they're going to find that first property, and then it's likely it might not be another year or two before the next one, but then the hope is they pick up steam. Kind of walk me through that and how you would coach an investor, a new investor, to kind of qualify a real estate agent.
Yeah, no, and thanks for having me on. I think that the biggest thing, it's a very close, it's a similar situation to agents as they are selecting a lender to work with their clients, right? It's a very similar process. Because you don't want to start referring your clients to a lender that's, not up to par, or, not going to take, a good job and take very good care of your clients. They want to make sure the transaction goes smooth. It's very similar. As you're picking an agent, you want the same thing. You want someone who's going to make that transaction smooth. And so it's a very similar, situation. So, with lenders, of course, it's, number one, right? The best way to start that process, right, is to work on a referral basis, right? Is to find someone who has bought apartment complexes, or, whatever it is, whatever type of investment you're trying to make. You should have, other people that that are doing the same thing. What agents are they using? What can they tell you about these agents, right? Try to do a little digging there with the contacts you already have, with what agents are being used by those investors and those individuals, and what their experience has been like, right? I think that is a very, very key place to start with this, is referrals, right? And knowing what the experience has been, for them with particular agents. Outside of that, if you don't have anybody, or let's say, you're just maybe you're investing in an area that you don't have any friends in, and, you're just starting from scratch looking for an agent. You're going to want to vet the agent. You're going to want, and there's so much information online these days. You can find out so much stuff about agents in terms of how long they've been in the business, what their sales have been, any reviews. You can see all that stuff right there online. So for someone like yourself, or, one of you guys that are making, these are big investments you're talking about with apartment complexes. This isn't a joke. This is, this isn't a single family or just a duplex. You're talking about multifamily. This is a big deal. It would be silly for us not to vet these agents in any kind of capacity. And I think there needs to be like a interview process. You need to actually systemize this, right? Because especially if you're going to be an investor in a bunch of different areas, you should have a system in place where you work by that same system. Each area you go into that you need to find an agent from scratch, you should have a step-by-step process that you have typed out on a sheet of paper, check boxes that you work on every time you're looking for an agent, to make sure that that you don't misstep, because it can cost you, right? As you mentioned, sometimes it's not the agent's fault, but sometimes it is. Right. And so you want to make sure that you've covered all your bases. The first part of that process should always include online research of the agents in the area and what kind of properties they're selling, how long they've been in the business. stuff of that nature, and really kind of, listen, spend some time doing this,
Right.
because it could actually prevent you from losing money on a deal, so on and so forth. So, the first step in the process is your online research of the agents, right?
Yeah.
Then your next step may be to narrow it down to the top three, right? Then you're going to call all three and go through an interview process with all three agents, right? Whereas, you're asking them about certain situations and you're really trying to vet them pretty hard on some, maybe there was a bad review. You want to ask them about that. What happened with that? What was the deal? So on and so forth. Maybe you want to ask them for references. I mean, listen, let's face it, when you're dealing with a deal of this magnitude,
Sure.
okay, you may want to get references. Hey, could you, who are three clients that you've dealt with that can give me a good reference with you? And when you talk to those references, of course they're going to give you their A-list clients that are going to do nothing but tell you great things about them, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why you want to go normally 2 levels deep with this. You want to ask that reference, who else do they know that could
Sure.
tell me more about John?
Yeah.
Right. And then you talk to that next level, and then you got to go one more level deep. Well, okay, great. Well, who do you know that has done business with John that I could talk to?
Sure.
And try to go 2 levels deep on the references. Right. And that'll help you extract more about them if you are in fact serious about finding the best candidate, right? That's going to give you the highest quality experience.
Yeah.
And all that sounds pretty basic, right? And pretty, probably what everyone thought I would say. That's what I said, because I'm a very basic, simple individual that likes to keeps things very simple. But although the missing diameter there is time spent, right? I think this is something it's something nobody wants to do the online research. They'll basically do online research to get to one they think's good and then stop there, call them and use them. Whereas I'm saying, spend a little more time. Let's get top 3.
Yeah.
Let's talk to them, see if we have a good connection with them.
Yep.
And then the 1 or 2 we have the best connection with, ask for references, take time to call those references, go deeper with the references. So all I'm saying is the same thing everyone else says, but all I'm saying is add more time to the process and go deeper.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I think one of the other things too is that a lot of people think a real estate agent is a real estate agent is a real estate agent. And
right,
that could not be less true. It's not true, because it's all about market that you're trying to penetrate. It's about the asset that you're trying to acquire. So I'd say probably 90% of our subscribers are probably 4-unit and less investors.
Okay.
So we certainly have the commercial, I own some big buildings and things like that, and those are nice. But I'd say 90% of the people that we're talking to are more focused on single family to 4-unit. So it really truly is a real residential broker, but also maybe residential small multifamily broker.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's the same process either way it goes. Listen, even if you're moving into a new area and you weren't referred, remember my very first step here, go with a referral of someone who has had a great experience.
Sure.
Right. And then go through the same vetting process. Just because you got the referral from someone, don't stop there. Go through the vetting process, right? Have that be the number 1 on your list of 3, find 2 more. Let's go through let's have your process on paper, have your check boxes on paper that you go through every time you go into a new area that you want to purchase in, but not only for commercial, but also residential. Agents can cost you money on residential just as well as they could on commercial.
It usually hurts more on residential because you don't have as much money.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's like, I got to make this one count. If you could, so I kind of want to play both sides of it here. The first side that I want to play is kind of top 2 mistakes that in an elite agent's eyes that works with the kind of newbies breaking in and people kind of all up and down the scale. Kind of the top 2 mistakes that you see agents make, and then the top 2 mistakes that you see new investors make, because I think that mistakes get made on both sides. But I'd be interested in your perspective on that, because again, you're elite, you've been doing this forever and you teach it. So what are the things that you're seeing that are kind of those top 2 mistakes that if you could change that in every broker and change that in every investor, kind of, like I said, that small multifamily, kind of single family through 4-plex, What would be those couple things on both sides that you think that are the most often made mistakes that people can correct?
Yeah, and you know, too, you got to understand that these mistakes come from lack of experience,
Sure.
right? And experience is one thing you can't just inject into someone, right?
True
It's something
story.
it's something that they acquire over time doing a lot of deals. And so what would I want to do to prevent people from making these mistakes? Well, I'd like to inject a lot of experience in them that I can't do.
Sure.
Right. So people are going to make these mistakes in the beginning as a new investor, as a new agent. These mistakes are going to happen, and there's no way around it. And there's no way that they're going to become one of those elites unless they actually make those
Sure.
mistakes, because there in itself is the experience I'm talking about injecting.
Sure.
Right. The experience comes from the mistakes they're making. Right. And I think too, there's a lot of mistakes that are made that they don't even know they made them. And the investor doesn't even know that they've made, that the agent has made these mistakes. Right. Because,
Sure.
for example, negotiations, right? If you negotiated a price that was a certain price, everybody's happy. Right. But the more experienced agent could have seen a different perspective and
Sure.
negotiated a much better price. But we
Yes.
don't even, the investor or the client or the buyer or the seller don't even realize it because they're happy.
Hmm.
Right. But they don't even realize that the more experienced agent could have seen something that newer agent didn't see and actually negotiate a better deal. So what I'm telling you is that, you know, with all due respect to the new agents out there, you know, it's probably going to be more, you know, conducive for you to go with a more experienced agent. Although I love new agents and how they're going to get their foot in the door. Listen,
Yeah,
new agents are going to get their foot in the door. If you're a winner, nothing's going to stop you from
that's
winning.
right.
Right. And
That's
if
right.
you're going to make this an excuse, you're going to make everything an excuse, and you're not going to make it anyway. Right. So, you know, don't, it's not a woe is me type situation. The moment you start complaining, blaming, and you know, making excuses is the moment that you're backing yourself out of the industry.
Yeah.
Right. And experienced agents have the same problem, by the way. Right. Experienced agents don't
Sure.
have the time. Well, experienced agents
Sure.
don't have the time on their hands to do
Right.
the research that the newer agents have. See, newer agents have time on their hands to go out there and out research everyone because they have all this time on their hands because they're not out there closing deals left and right like the experienced agents are. That's a huge, huge advantage for the new agents. So trust me, new agents listening, there's a huge advantage for you as well, right?
Absolutely.
You just have to realize
Mm.
that it's an advantage and take advantage of the advantage. But that's the biggest one that I see really on both sides is the negotiations part of it, right? And even coming down into the repair, negotiating the repairs, and just every part of the negotiations. Um, I found that regardless of how good I've always thought I am at negotiating, it seems like I always get better and better. Even though I thought I
Yeah.
was at the top of my game 10 years ago, I'm 100 times better now. And I'm 5 times better than I was last year. And I'm going to be 5 times better next year than I am this year. Right. Negotiation and knowing when to do certain things, and knowing when to play poker with them, knowing when to throw your hands up, you know, those are
Mhm.
all strategic
Sure.
moves that I don't think you ever reach the top of that skill level, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Outside of that, you know, in terms of investors, I think a lot of them in the beginning miscalculate the valuation, or you know, the
Sure.
cash flow part of it.
Yep.
And listen, again, another mistake that you need to make to learn, you know, you got to get in there and get your feet wet,
Right.
you know, or you're never going to learn anything. You're never going to
Right.
have anything. The cool thing is it's really hard to lose, you know, even if you make a misstep there, it's really hard to lose anyway, because guess what? You still own the property,
Right.
right? So yeah, I think the biggest thing is don't be so worried about mistakes. You know, go at them, you know, full steam ahead, and make them so that you learn and you don't have to make them anymore.
Yeah. We always like to say time in the market beats timing the market. And
Mhm.
so it's like you were saying, you get the house, and if your numbers were off, A, shame on you, it better not happen again. But B, from an investor perspective, that's one of the things that we talk is, we show them, hey guys, this is what your return on capital needs to be. And only you can make that decision. But we talk to folks that invest outside of market, even outside of country. And so I think that the interesting thing there is we say, you got to understand what market average is. Then you know what an average deal is. You want to do at least a good deal, if not a great deal, and just start ticking up the ladder. One of the other things that we talk about too, that I think kind of gets the agent and the buyer, the investor on the same page, is a concept that I call the reverse offer strategy. The reverse offer strategy is, you see the house, you like the house. That's great. Have the agent do something that most other agents are doing. They're not doing this. They need to go back to the listing agent and they need to say, if you could tell me, what are the three most important things that your seller is trying to get out of this? Do they want to close really fast? Do they want the biggest number possible? Do they want, because yeah, at the end of the day, almost everybody would say, yeah, I want the most money, but there's usually other factors there.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is I like to talk about that as the reverse offer strategy. That's something that I teach, is making this a transaction, but making it a deal that can work for all parties. Because when you can engage on that level with the listing agent, you've just put yourself so much further ahead than all the other people hurling offers over. You don't understand he's qualified. You don't understand she's a great buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I heard that on every phone call from every other agent that they've done this before. But that reverse offer strategy concept really puts something in the investor's hand, the new investor's hand, and even the new agent's hand that says, we're going to go about this a little bit differently. We're going to talk to that listing agent and say, you know, if the world were perfect, what would be the top kind of three things that they're after? That's worked tremendously in my career, because it gets me locked into a process as opposed to a transaction with the listing agent. And locking into that process, we rarely lose those. And when we do lose them, we want to lose them. We want to lose them because it's not a good deal. It's not the deal we want anymore.
Right. Right. No, I like that, because my biggest thing when we find a buyer or seller that's thinking about doing something, might do something, needs to do something, is digging into the very next question, which is why, which I think a lot of agents do not do.
Yep.
Right. And so I've always been big on coaching agents to do that on the front end as they're running into clients who might do something soon or whatever the case may be. But this takes it a step further to kind of learn more about why or what the seller is looking for in the back end. I like that a lot. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we want to add value for our investors. And so I've been doing this for over 20 years. I know I don't look it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but we've been doing this for over 20 years. I bought buildings, sold buildings, have 115 units now. And you always have to do something to set yourself apart. And the only answer can't be, well, I can pay cash. Well, I'm qualified. Get in the line. So are a bunch of other people. So do something different. Give them an opportunity to enter into not a transaction, but enter into a conversation where if you guys can meet each other's needs, then everybody else is on the outside trying to go, oh, we pay more. Oh, we do this. Yeah, but you know what? That seller, they feel good about this thing now. They're invested in this process now, and it's going to give you a leg up, but more importantly, it's going to get everybody more what they want. So Ricky, I know you're running short on time. I wanted to thank you again for doing this with me. One of the things that we'll do when we release this on our channel is we always like to tell people, hey, where can people find you?
The best place is Instagram, right? I answer every DM there every day. So that's a really good place. Ricky Carruth. And the link in my bio has all the free coaching for real estate agents and kind of all my stuff. That's the best place to connect with me. ZeroToDiamond.com is the free coaching platform, which is a social media platform as well. Those are really the best places to get me, of course, here on YouTube and stuff like that.
It's awesome. Well, so if you're looking to find me, I'm the Lumberjack Landlord. I'm on YouTube. I actually do a free live stream every Sunday for 3 hours where I answer investor questions, but I'll answer agent questions as well. So I make myself available to that, make sure people can kind of hang out with us and hear some questions, learn some stuff. But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. You're an elite agent. You teach these concepts and these processes. So I appreciate you making yourself available for this today, and look forward to potentially doing another project like this with you in the future.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ricky.